We've got a handsome one in for you today from Balistik Defense. This is via Dickinson Arms, 1911. Full tabletop review. We'll go over what's in the box, take a look at the manual, fit, finish, and features, some trigger talk, how to field strip it, and talk about what'll be in the range video, all coming up next on GBGuns. It's a nice outer protective box for the hard case within. This is from Dickinson Arms, who, by the way, was also the importer, or is the importer of that Ranger Arms that recently did. Open up the box. Looks pretty nice. Don't have a manual that I could find, but we've got the pistol, a magazine, and this is a 9mm version. We also have a dual-ended bushing wrench, which is pretty cool. And then up top, the full accoutrement of cleaning materials. We've got a wipe, we've got our 3 different brushes, we've got some rougher brushes for getting rid of some debris, and an oil bottle that comes without oil. I'm cool with that because sometimes the ones that come with oil end up leaking and then they make a mess inside there. Pretty handsome looking piece. Let me get the packaging out of the way and we'll take a look at the gun. Yes, it is another Turkish 1911, but this one's a little different and I appreciate that. I stuck the magazine in there. It comes with a 10-round 9mm magazine, which gives you plenty of room in case you've got large hands underneath there. Smooth front strap, not a fan of that, but it is classic. We'll start off by checking for magazine release or ejection with the slide lock to the rear, flipping it over, and we get a little bit of kick there. There is some ejection, which would be nice. Speaking of magazines, 1911s can be very magazine sensitive. In the range video, we'll do the multi-mag test. I've got a pile, I think I have 8 or 9 different 9mm 1911 magazines. And what's funny is just because brand A works well in gun A doesn't mean it will in gun B. So I'll do my best to run through those so you guys have an idea, since this only comes with one magazine. Since there's no manual, we get to skip that part. Let's take a look at fit, finish, and features. We'll start up front, and you see we've got a nice target crown on there. Looks like maybe a 14 degree. I mean, that's quite set back. I think that's pretty cool. I like that. If you're unfamiliar with crowning, it protects the rifling should there be impact or something on the front of the gun. Keeps the rifling from getting scratched. It doesn't need to be this deep of an angle, but it looks nice. Imagine if that was a stainless barrel. That'd be really pretty. You can also see while we're up here that we do have a bushing system. No rail. The import marks are underneath, keeping them kind of out of the way. We have some slight ones here. As I understand it, well, I know the folks who own Dickinson Arms also own Ranger Arms. I don't know if they're involved in this particular factory or not. Balistik Defense, spelled kind of differently. But I kind of just love the handsome looks of this. Between the walnut grips and we've got a brass bead front sight up there, which is kind of neat. Very shotgun referencey, very classic, but looks pretty nice. While we're down here, let's do some trigger talk. Of course, we have see how our safety is. Safety is stiff. Oh, and does hyperextend a little bit on this side, but I cannot do that from the other side. Anyways, 1911s are known for good triggers. Got some spring-loaded take up to a wall. It's very short. And a smooth break. Good reset. Takes us in front of that wall again. So, good trigger. The weight on it, I would say, is about defensive level. It's not super heavy, but it's not super light either. See that naked front strap, which is classic, but I personally appreciate some traction there. Now with 9mm, it's not going to rock so much, so it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. We have a little bit of beveling underneath for the magazine well, and these handsome grips. I know grips are a personal thing, and it's one of the fun things with 1911s is with 2 screws you can change the look of the gun, but I like this. Vertical serrations on the mainspring housing and the tail end of the safety there. That's a nice look. I do, however, wish that they were horizontal and not vertical. I'm not worried about the gun swimming left and right. I'm worried about the gun rocking. Our fit in the back is nice and tight. I'll give you guys another look at that sight picture. I'll get the camera to focus on that brass bead for you. You get a concept there. Looks pretty nice. And right side, The safety on here is also stiff, but not as stiff and doesn't have that overextension. I'm sure one of you 1911 guys will be able to tell me what the deal's with that. I know safeties often have to be fitted. Extended beaver tail, nice spurred hammer there, good fitment, and coming on the right side of the gun, good and classic. Something that I thought about a little bit late in another 1911 I just reviewed was a lesson I learned after reviewing a Colt. I had a Colt competition model sent in, and I cut myself on it because these edges were all sharp. These feel a little sharp, but not cut yourself sharp, which is nice. So step up from Colt there. Next we'll field strip this and take a look inside the gun. This has a full-length guide rod, and without a manual I'm curious to see what the procedure is going to look like. Now the internet loves to argue about ways to field strip a 1911. I'm going to go with the way that works for me, using this bushing wrench, which is pretty handy. We get on here and push down on that plunger and be able to turn our bushing. I always forget which direction it needs to go, so it's something I experiment with every time. There we go. There's our bushing and our spring. Now we can bring the slide back until this little cutout here is over the slide stop. And push from the other side, which is rather flush on this. Let's see if I can find something to push with real quick. There we go, I got it off camera. The struggle I was having is the cut here for the relief and the little knob on the end of the slide lock are very close fit, and this thing was sliding so easily that I kept moving out of place. So just a little user error there. And now we should be able to bring everything out the front if the slide wants to move, but it does not. It wants to go rearward but not forward. What's going on here? And that required a couple taps of the mallet, which is kind of odd. I'm sure I've done something egregiously wrong, and 1911 disciple will yell at me shortly. But there's the full-length guide rod. It is a metal rod, which is nice. Folks like these because of lore. It was probably real at one point, but I don't think it is anymore, of springs binding, and this prevents the spring from binding some. It also adds a little bit of non-reciprocating nose weight, which makes for a softer shooter gun, which is why competition shooters like it. Now we can take a look inside our slide, and you can see we've got a 70s series here with no drop safety, so be aware of that. Everything looks pretty decent and classic. Now we can take a look inside of our frame. Looks pretty standard. Next, we'll check that barrel for chamber support and fitment. We do this in case there should be a case rupture. You want to make sure that you've got as much support as possible around the case and drop it. And this is some Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense. It's nickel plated for corrosion resistance, which makes it great for a test round like this. Drop it in, a nice plunk. Can rotate freely, so we have plenty of space. And as you can see, just a touch at the feed ramp, but otherwise it is a fully supported chamber, so that is nice to know. Now I'll reassemble, hopefully, just following inverse of the disassembly. It's funny, some gun 1911s come apart so easy for me, others not so much. This one was sliding really nicely on the rails, and as a result I had some fighting to do there. But as I do this, I'll tell you about what will be in the range video. You'll see absolute first shots through the gun, no practice, no highlight reels, no fake stuff. We do it all real on this channel. We'll do full magazine +1, see how this runs fully stuffed, while telling you what the ammunition is, so you know if it's relevant to you or not, because the ammunition is one of the factors that makes a difference there. Let me get that bushing rotated. Wow, that's a tight bushing. Is that going to be enough space? No, I need to go this way. No, it doesn't want to. Interesting. We'll do the multi-mag test, see how the gun runs with a variety of other magazines. Take it to the What's for Dinner table to see what the gun will eat. That can be important, especially 1911s are known for being a little picky. I think it's mostly figured out, but it's always good to know. Then we'll take it to the spinner for sights and trigger control. So we should have a good time there with 1911 style trigger action. And then practical accuracy, 5 shots from 7 yards from 2 shooters, as well as our concluding thoughts. For full specs and all of that stuff, head on over to gbgunsdepot.com. That's where I post it all. Now having a struggle bus here. I can't wait for the hate comments. It's going to be loads of fun. Never mind that I've done, I don't know, a couple dozen 1911s without issues before, just having struggles with this one, but it's the internet, so making nasty comments is what people love to do. So brave behind the keyboard. You know, I could just refilm this all differently and show you perfection, but that wouldn't be honest or real, and that's not how I do things on this channel. So you get to see it. Yeah, specs, full details, all that stuff. Come on, now I gotta get that little link straightened out. GBGunsdepot.com will have all that stuff, and that post will be out before you see this video on YouTube. So if you're new to the channel and kind of learning things, how we work here, patrons get to see things first, then article, then YouTube, because YouTube is my lowest priority. Well, other than Instagram. Alright, we've got that on there. Finally. Now we can come back up here, and it's time to press this guy in and then rotate that bushing. If the bushing turned far enough out of the way, which it seems it did not want to. I'm going to complete my struggle with this gun off camera. And here it is back together. I am not novice to 1911s. Tell you what the problem was, or my situation, and that is that the barrel bushing would not turn far enough out of the way to get that plunger back in, even though I'm pretty sure, and we've got it on video, it turned enough to get the plunger out. So what I ended up doing was inserting the plunger inside the slide with the bushing already on there, then the recoil assembly, holding that together and putting it all back on the gun. That may just be the way this has to be done with this particular setup. Not a huge inconvenience, just a different technique. And of course it sure frustrates you and makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing when for the first time trying it, keeping it real as I always do on this channel, it didn't quite pan out the way I expected. Anyways, we'll see you on the range. Thanks for watching.